Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Bullet Soul Infinite Burst for the Xbox 360. This is, without a doubt, one of my favorite shoot-em-ups for the Xbox 360, which, considering how many great shooters there are on the console, is very high praise indeed. This may actually be the most fun and addictive shooter on the system, thanks to the burst mode, which is my preferred way to play. You have 4 different ships to choose from that all have different levels of speed and handling, and different shot patterns, and in burst mode, every enemy you defeat leaves behind coins to collect that give you huge point bonuses, and if you take too long to collect them, they will float off screen, so you have to be quick and balance your attention between blowing away enemies and collecting coins. And as you destroy enemies, you also build up your burst meter, which grants you some serious firepower when activated. Also, while in burst mode, the coins turn red and are worth more points, and the more you can collect, the more time you spend in your burst mode, so you'll be spending as much time as possible at the top of the screen collecting as many coins as you can, while destroying enemies as quickly as possible. Of course, there's also the original Bullet Soul mode to play through, in which when you destroy an enemy, any bullets they had left on screen turn into the titular Bullet Souls and become harmless, so again you're encouraged to get up close and personal with the enemy and blow them away as quickly as possible. Both modes are extremely fun, but burst mode is my personal favorite, as it's like a shooter mixed with a never-ending slot machine, and the graphics and sound design are both outstanding. Amazing visuals and a non-stop heavy metal soundtrack complement the frantic gameplay perfectly. If you're a shooter fan and haven't tried Bullet Soul yet, what are you waiting for? This game is all kinds of awesome. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Ougon Musokyoku Cross for the Xbox 360. If you're a fan of 2D fighters and you've never heard of this game, then let me preemptively say you're welcome, because this is undoubtedly one of the best fighting games available on the Xbox 360, and it's a shame that it never saw the light of day outside of Japan, because I would definitely put it on par with games like BlazBlue and Guilty Gear. This game has a lot in common with the Melty Blood series, as it was also originally an independent release on the PC before making its way to consoles, and it's based on the Umineko series of visual novel games. This is a fast-paced 2D tag fighter with a heavy emphasis on performing elaborate combos and stringing them together with special attacks and super combos. One interesting aspect of this game is that as you fight, you build up your partner's super combo gauge, so that when you tag them in, you'll have an arsenal of super moves at your disposal. Also, you can use one super combo stock to switch over to the Meta World, which grants your character stat boosts, special abilities, and allows you to launch a devastating meta attack. And you can cancel your opponent's Meta World by activating your own, so the entire match you'll be pulling off combos, tagging in and out, and playing a bit of tug of war with the Meta World. It's an incredibly fun and fast-paced gameplay experience with a diverse roster of characters and a few additional gameplay modes that were made specifically for this Xbox 360 port. And in addition to the great gameplay, this is an amazing looking game with absolutely beautiful stages and a great anime style mixed with a bit of Victorian era, kind of like Death Smiles. I really love the way it looks, and the soundtrack is amazing. It's mostly a mix of classical style music with a bit of heavy metal thrown in for good measure. All things considered, Ougon Musokyoku Cross is one of the best fighting games you can play on the 360. Check it out. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Dodanpachi Sai Daiojo for the Xbox 360. This is a region-free game that was first released in arcades in 2012, and later on the 360 in 2013, and it was developed and published by Cave, who are basically the first name in bullet hell shooters with other games under their belt like Mushi Hime-sama, Espgaluda, and Muchi Muchi Pork, all of which also thankfully got releases on the Xbox 360 in Japan at least, though other games like Death Smiles and Akai Katana were released internationally, but I digress. This game is my personal favorite in the long-running Dodanpachi series, and it offers quite the challenge. You have the choice of different gameplay modes like arcade and the original Xbox 360 mode, which also features a playable ship that's a console exclusive. When you play this game, you pretty much know exactly what you're going to get. It's a balls-to-the-wall bullet hell shooter with a ton of enemies and bullets on screen at all times. You have two fire modes available to you, a spread shot that allows you to move quickly and covers a good portion of the screen, and the laser shot that slows you down a bit and really packs a punch, making it especially useful against bosses. You also have a limited supply of super bombs that deal massive damage and clear all the bullets from the screen, making them especially useful. And in addition to that, you have a hyper gauge that fills up as you destroy enemies, and when it's activated, you become death incarnate for all of the unfortunate enemies that wander on screen. It's incredibly fun, challenging, and addictive. If you like bullet hell games, they don't get much better than this one, in my humble opinion, and the great gameplay is coupled with flashy visuals and a high-energy soundtrack that keeps you pumped while you blast everything to hell. Again, it's region-free, and it's awesome. Definitely check out Dodanpachi Sai Daiojo. Hey everybody, Jim here with your Christmas Day dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Death Smiles 2X Makai no Merry Christmas for the Xbox 360. This is a very festive game that was originally released in arcades in 2009 and ported to the Xbox 360 in Japan in 2010, and it actually did get a digital release in North America, even though it wasn't actually localized. It's set on Christmas Eve when the evil Satan Claus has stolen 6 golden musical notes with magical properties in order to open a door to the demon world and use the forces of darkness to conquer the human world at the stroke of midnight, bringing about a very unmerry Christmas indeed. This is a classic example of a bullet hell shooter developed by Cave, so if you've played some of their other games, including the original Death Smiles, you know exactly what you're getting into. It's lots and lots of bullets to navigate your way through. It's a notoriously tough genre of games, but Death Smiles 2 does offer a number of different gameplay modes and difficulty settings to suit your skill level. For example, there is a novice mode which tones things down quite a bit and is perfect for beginners, the original arcade mode which presents quite a challenge in its own right, and the console exclusive Xbox 360 mode, and a Maniac mode for experienced players. There are 6 different playable characters to choose from that all have unique play styles. You have a stock of super bombs to clear bullets and enemies from the screen, and a power gauge that allows you to enter a powered-up state for a brief period to deal some massive damage, which you'll definitely need against all of this game's many enemies and boss battles, all of which are challenging and fun, and everything is topped off with great graphics, awesome sound design, and just a touch of holiday cheer. So get yourself into the Christmas spirit with some good old-fashioned bullet hell action. It's Death Smiles 2X Makai no Merry Christmas, and it's awesome. And always remember that Satan Claus is watching, and have a Merry Christmas. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Oda Medius Gorgeous for the Xbox 360. This is a 2008 release that was developed and published by Konami, and you might be thinking to yourself that this game definitely was released outside of Japan, but no, you'd be thinking of the sequel called Oda Medius Excellent. This game is actually a port of the original Oda Medius arcade game that was also only released in Japan back in 2007, when it was the first Konami arcade shooter to be released in over 8 years. If you have played Oda Medius Excellent though, then you'll feel right at home with this one because there really isn't much of a difference in the gameplay. It's essentially the exact same as the Gradius and Parodius games that came before it. You have a handful of playable ships to choose from, in this case being scantily clad young ladies in flying vehicles, and they all feature different strings of power-ups, including things like lasers, ripple shots, missiles, and energy shields. I will say that this series definitely has a lot more in common with Parodius, as it also includes some especially wacky enemies and bosses, and plenty of other stuff you'd never see in a Gradius game. It's very fun and challenging, and this port includes some additional gameplay modes and playable ships that weren't available in arcades. If you're a fan of the classic Gradius gameplay style, this game executes it quite well, and it's packaged with beautiful, colorful graphics, entertaining characters, elaborate stages, and an upbeat soundtrack that complements the visuals and gameplay perfectly. I think that amongst the myriad of Xbox 360 shooters, the Oda Medius games don't get quite as much love as they should, which is definitely a shame. If you're a shooter fan with a 360 and some time on your hands, check out Oda Medius Gorgeous. It's awesome. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Nurarihyon Nomago for the Xbox 360. This is a 2011 release that was published by Konami and developed by Arc Systemworks. Yes, another 2D fighter by Arc has crept out of the woodwork, and this is quite unlike many of their other fighters like Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue, which are fairly traditional 2D fighters, although they do play incredibly fast and feature really over-the-top super attacks. This game plays very fast as well, so there's no difference there, but it's far from being a traditional fighter. There are 12 characters to choose from, and you can choose to have one-on-one matches or team matches where you can bring in some additional characters to help you out, and it kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball Z Legends on the Sega Saturn, actually, with every character on your team possibly being involved in the battle all at once. The controls are extremely simple. You only have a couple of attack buttons, and special attacks and super combos are triggered with just a couple of button presses, and you're free to move around the stage and jump to different platforms, very similar to a game of Smash Brothers. Also, there are no health bars in this game, but rather one bar that's colored red and blue, and serves as a tug of war, again very similar to DBZ Legends, so matches can either be over super quick, or they can be drawn out for a very long time if it's an even match. Overall, this is a very fun, fast-paced, frantic, and unorthodox fighting game. It's not a very deep fighter by any means, but still very enjoyable, and I love the graphic style, with every stage looking like a beautiful work of art. The whole game has kind of a watercolor look to it that I think is great, and the soundtrack is fantastic as well. Really nothing to complain about with this game. Definitely check out Nurarihyon Nomago if you're looking for some sweet Xbox 360 fighting action. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Strike Witches Hakugen no Tsubasa for the Xbox 360. This is a 2010 release that was developed and published by Cyberfront, and it was later ported to the PSP, which is basically the exact same game in handheld form. It's based on the series of manga and anime of the same name, which centers around the squadron of Strike Witches, young girls with magical powers that defend the Earth from an alien invasion in an alternate reality where World War II never took place. They strap propeller engines to their legs, grow furry ears and tails for some reason, arm themselves to the teeth, and take to the skies. This is, in a nutshell, a bullet hell shooter, but I will say its gameplay is unique amongst the many other bullet hell shooters on the 360. You're given a large selection of characters to choose from that all carry different weaponry, and you use 3 of them at a time. You have one character in the lead, and the other 2 follow their movements, and you can swap them in and out at will. Instead of being a standard shooter, this is, in fact, a twin-stick shooter with one analog stick controlling your movement, and the other firing your weapons in whatever direction you point it to. You can fire with a full 360-degree range of motion as enemies and bullets enter the screen from all directions, destroy everything in sight, either with your standard shot or your much more powerful magic shot that takes a little time to refill when used, and collect all of the point bonuses you can. There's always a lot going on in this game. It's very frantic and very fun and quite challenging as well. Plus, the graphics and sound are both very good, and there are multiple difficulty settings and gameplay modes to enjoy. It's a surprisingly all-around great shooter for such a low-key release, and it's well worth picking up either for the Xbox 360 or the Vita. It's Strike Witches Hakugen no Tsubasa, and it's awesome. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Muchi Muchi Pork for the Xbox 360. This is a 2011 release that was developed and published by Cave, and it's a port of the 2007 arcade original. It's bundled with another Cave shooter called Pink Sweets, and that's a great game as well. But for my money, Muchi Muchi Pork is the real star of the show. It gives you 3 playable characters to choose from that are all young girls riding on flying, pedal-powered pig scooters as they take on the evil General Pork Fillet and his legions of tanks, planes, and mech suits. With this being a Cave shooter, you pretty much know what you're in for. A bullet hell shooter of the highest quality. Each of the 3 characters has a different shot type that vary in effectiveness, and each character comes equipped with what's known as a lard gun. As you destroy enemies on the ground and in the sky, they will leave behind pigs that you can collect to fill up your lard meter, which in turn allows you to use your lard attack, a much more powerful attack than your standard shot, which is very nifty. So as long as you're collecting pigs, you've got plenty of firepower at your disposal. You also have a limited supply of super bombs that summon giant robots to annihilate everything on screen. This can be a pretty tough game, but you are given multiple gameplay modes and difficulty settings to choose from to suit your preference, and on the whole, this is just an insanely fun bullet hell shooter that plays like a dream. Plus, the graphics are great with plenty of comical character designs, detailed stages, and a metric ton of color, as well as a poppy soundtrack to match the light-hearted visuals. If you can pick this up along with Pink Sweets, definitely do. It's perfect for a bullet hell fan. It's Muchi Muchi Pork, and it's oh so awesome. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Mushi Hime-sama Futari for the Xbox 360. This is a 2009 release that was developed and published by Cave, and it's a port of the 2006 arcade original that itself is a sequel to the original Mushi Hime-sama, which is a great shooter, but this one has some features that I think edge it out over the original. Also, oddly enough, this game was eventually ported to iOS under the English title Bug Princess 2, and I haven't played that version, but I have to imagine that it doesn't hold a candle to the 360 version, especially considering how much content is included in this game. And more good news, it's region free, so if you've got any manner of Xbox 360, you're all set to play this one. In terms of gameplay, I think the Mushi Hime-sama games have the most in common with the Dodanpachi series, just replacing fighter jets and futuristic technology with giant insects and other various creatures in a lush, natural environment. You have two different shot types to swap between: a spread shot that's not so powerful but allows you to move more freely, and a concentrated shot that packs more of a punch but slows down your movement, and using the right shot at the right time is crucial. You also have a limited supply of super bombs that clear the screen of bullets, and you can use an auto bomb option, which is great in a pinch. There are also a ton of gameplay modes included in this release, including Original, Arranged, Novice, and Maniac, plus a replay saving option, which is also pretty cool. It's an overall fun and very challenging bullet hell shooter with plenty of ways to play to keep you coming back for more, plus it's an absolutely gorgeous game with insane amounts of color and detail in every stage, and it features one of the best soundtracks in any Cave shooter. So if you've got an Xbox 360 and you want a great region-free bullet hell shooter for it, look no further than Mushi Hime-sama Futari. It's awesome. Hey everybody, Jim here with your daily dose of Japanese gaming goodness. It is the import game of the day, and today's game is Genga Force for the Xbox 360. This is a 2012 release that was developed and published by Qt Corporation, the same developer as other fantastic shoot-'em-ups Eschatos and Natsuki Chronicles, so if you've played and enjoyed those, then you should feel right at home with Genga Force. This is definitely not what I would call a standard shoot-'em-up, though, for a couple of reasons. For starters, this is for the most part a vertically scrolling shooter, but the camera does a lot of moving in this game, and your perspective will shift quite a bit during gameplay, going from top-down to isometric to third-person perspective and back again, all in the span of a few minutes. Some shooting purists who prefer either strictly vertical or horizontal scrolling might not care for this, but personally I thought it was implemented really well here and offered something a little unusual that honestly felt like a better version of Eschatos, which was already a great game to begin with. Another interesting aspect of this game is a complete lack of power-ups during gameplay, instead letting you earn money from each mission that can be spent on upgrading your main weapon, sub-weapons, and special weapons, so there's a lot of variety here as far as possible upgrades and weapon layouts. Plus, all of that aside, this is just a very fun and challenging shooter with ultra-responsive controls and great stage layouts and boss battles, and on top of that, this is a pretty good-looking game for what was almost certainly a pretty limited budget. It's colorful, detailed, and features some great anime character designs and a very good soundtrack that really complements the gameplay very well, and even better, it's region free. So if you've got an Xbox 360 that's lacking in the shoot 'em up department, be sure to grab a copy of Genga Force. It's awesome.